Welcome to We Have a Spiritual Problem, a podcast exploring the deep interconnections between personal wellness, societal challenges, and spiritual growth. Hosted by Dr. Jeff Armstrong, this thought-provoking series tackles the big questions. How do we cultivate a well-centered life in a world that often feels unbalanced? What role does spirituality play in solving today's personal and collective problems? Drawing from concepts of well-centered fitness, spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional, and social wellness, we bring you engaging conversations with experts, thinkers, and everyday people who challenge us to rethink our approaches to health, happiness, and harmony. Whether you're seeking balance, looking to deepen your spiritual understanding, or curious about how wellness connects to social change, this podcast offers actionable insights and inspiration. Welcome to We Have a Spiritual Problem. I'm Dr. Jeff Armstrong, and I'm thrilled and maybe honestly just a little bit apprehensive to embark on this journey with you. Now, I know what you're thinking. 2025, are we effed? It's a provocative title, right? But here's the thing. The question isn't just rhetorical. It's real. It's urgent. And it's something I think we've all been asking ourselves, consciously or not. We're living in an era of rising mental health challenges, political and cultural divisions, environmental collapse, technological overload, and perhaps most importantly, a pervasive sense of disconnection. Many of us feel unmoored, like we're sprinting through life but never truly arriving anywhere. So in this podcast, I want to dig into the heart of the question, are we effed? Not in a doom or gloom way, but in a way that pushes us to think critically, spiritually, and hopefully about what's next. Because while the signs may look grim, I believe acknowledging the problem is the first step towards solving it. Let's set the stage. As we move through 2025, it's clear we're at a critical crossroads. Climate change is no longer a distant threat. It's here. It's in our backyards. Wildfires, floods, and droughts are not just headlines, they're realities for millions. Economically, inequality is growing. The rich are getting richer while too many struggle to make ends meet. Socially, we've never been more digitally connected, yet loneliness is at an all-time high. How is that even possible? We scroll endlessly through streams of content, but it doesn't seem to fill the emptiness. And politically, don't even get me started. It feels more like no one can agree on anything anymore, not even the basic facts. But here's the thing. These issues aren't just external. They're symptoms of something deeper, a spiritual problem. When I say spiritual, I'm not necessarily talking religion. I'm talking about the human need for meaning, purpose, and connection to ourselves, to each other, and to something bigger than ourselves. The reality is, we've become experts at avoiding the big questions. Questions like, what am I here for? What do I truly value? What kind of world do I want to help create? These are spiritual questions. And as a society, we've gotten really, really good at dodging them. If we want to address the external crises we're facing, we need to start with the internal ones. So let's confront the question head on. Are we effed? The answer, in my opinion, is not yet. But let's unpack why it feels like we are. First, we're overwhelmed. 24-hour news cycles, social media, and constant access to information create a kind of collective anxiety. We're always on, always reacting, never really reflecting. Second, we've lost trust. Trust in institutions, trust in each other, trust in ourselves. And without trust, everything starts to unravel. Third, and this might be the most important, we've lost a sense of what is sacred. Not sacred in the purely religious sense, but sacred in the sense that life itself holds meaning beyond what it produces or consumes. Sacred in the sense that relationships, communities, and the natural world are worth cherishing and protecting. When we lose that sense, everything becomes transactional, disposable. And when everything is disposable, what's left to hold on to? And here's the thing. These problems, overwhelm, distrust, disconnection, they're not new. They've been building for decades, even centuries. But what makes this moment different is that we can't afford to ignore the spiritual dimension anymore. We need to rethink how we live, how we connect, and what we prioritize. So what's the antidote to a spiritual problem? Well, in this podcast, we're going to explore these three big questions. How do we cultivate purpose and meaning in a chaotic world? How do we reconnect with ourselves, with each other, and with something greater? And how do we turn that connection into action that creates real change? We'll hear from guests from diverse perspectives, writers, thinkers, activists, and everyday people. Together, we'll challenge assumptions, dive into tough questions, and hopefully leave you feeling inspired, not defeated. But more than that, this journey is about you, your questions, your growth, your potential to make a difference. Because whether or not we are effed depends in a large part on what we do next. It's going to get messy. It's going to be uncomfortable at times. But if we're willing to confront these challenges head on, I believe we can find a way forward. Spiritual wellness isn't a luxury or an afterthought. It's the foundation for living a meaningful and fulfilling life. By addressing the spiritual disconnect that so many of us feel, we can start to transform not only how we live, but how we thrive. This journey isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Begin by giving yourself permission to pause, reflect, and seek connection in whatever way feels right for you. As we move forward, remember that finding balance and fulfillment is a process. Take one step at a time and know that the path forward is as important as the destination. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope you'll continue in this journey of discovery and growth. Please like and follow this podcast, and I promise some inspiring conversations to come. So as we wrap up this first episode, I want to leave you with a question. What does a better world look like to you? Not just in the abstract, but in your own life. What would it take for you to feel more connected, more fulfilled, more alive? Because that's where change begins. With each of us asking these questions and taking small, courageous steps towards the answers. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring enough to ask, are we effed? And for being willing to explore what comes next. Again, make sure to follow this podcast, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, and join me next time as we dive deeper into these questions. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other.